Hi, and welcome everyone to another episode of SEOs Getting Coffee. We all have our coffees. There
We
you
do
go.
indeed.
There you
Hello,
go.
everyone. Welcome.
Today, another special episode with Gus Pelogia, who is the Senior SEO Product Manager at Indeed. And he's going to share with us how he managed to speak at a whopping 7 conferences only last year. He's going to tell us the secret sauce of speaking at conferences. And I know a lot of SEOs out there would like to get into speaking. So I'm super excited about this one. Gus, over to you. How did you
Well,
do it?
hi everyone. Nice
Hi,
to
Gus.
be here and to talk about speaking at conferences. I enjoy doing that very much, and I guess I started doing it was maybe back 2017, 18, and the idea for me was like all the people that I admire in SEO tend to be speakers, or a lot of them, and I would always go to a place and look up to them and really trying to learn all I could from the talks, and you kind of really learn to appreciate some people. And for me was one way to be as good as them is to do some of the things they're doing. Um, so being on stage became something very exciting to me. I wanted to be part of the group, and I wanted to be in evidence. And over time, you start seeing all the benefits around it. But of course, it's not easy to start. Very nervous, and
Mhm.
yeah, I'll tell you more stories later.
When was your
Yeah.
first? When was your first talk then, Gus? What was the first talk that you did?
Yeah, my first talk was here in Dublin, where I live, was a meetup that doesn't exist anymore called Pint Size Marketing.
Hmm.
And even though I helped organizing, it was a company called Learning Bound that was a bigger conference that's happened here in Dublin, and I was involved with them. I had to annoy the owner, Mark Scully, several times until he was like, "Fine, fine, you get a slot and you speak it." And I think it was about SEO and PPC working together, one of those
Hmm.
things. And I very vividly remember as I was running through the slides in my living room, just having all the slides on a projector and already trying to match the 20 minutes window that I have, and getting stuck, like getting just and this SE and I lived with a guy who worked in SEO in the past. He's an engineer, but he had some SEO knowledge, and so he would understand what I was talking about. And he just passed through the living room, and he started laughing at me, like copying, mimicking the things that I was saying. And then I realized, why am I nervous? Like I'm alone in my house. Like I don't have to meet the 20 minutes time right now. I can just look at
Mm.
the slides for 10 minutes and think about what I'm gonna say. And I realized that I was nervous for no reason. There was like literally nobody in the room. And later I came to realize that if people came to watch you talking, they're interested in you. They want you to succeed. It's not like, on football that half of the people want you to win and half of the people are very excited for you to perform really poorly, and they are, there to boo you or to be against you. Like literally it's just home team playing alone. Everyone wants you to win. So there's really not that much of a reason to be that nervous. And once that clicked to me, then things started getting a lot smoother.
It's amazing that it clicked so fast. I mean, you're talking about the first conference, and obviously, I presume that one wasn't a big one. You were saying that it's like a meetup, and you went from that to doing Brighton SEO. That's like, thousands of people basically. Does that matter? Is it like, what's more nerve-wracking, the little ones or the big ones, actually?
I think I don't think there's a difference to me at this point. The big ones, it's almost like you feel numb while you're speaking. You are there for 20 minutes, and you look at different people on the stage that are watching you, and you see like someone here is paying attention. You look at this person, look at this one, so you're not focusing on the screen looking down or just look at one person. But it feels like, I don't know, jumping in cold water. It's like it's done and it's finished, and you're like, was I here for 20 minutes talking? Like it feels that it's so quick. And I would say after the first 1 or 2 minutes, that maybe you're looking at the screen instead of looking at people, and you are babbling a bit of the words, it kind of just starts on a natural flow, and it's more, you don't realize you're just there, and those are the slides that you already rehearsed before. You are in full control. People don't actually know what you're going to say. So if you change the way you're explaining something, which I usually end up doing, I can rehearse 10 times that I'm going to do in a certain way. And when I'm actually there, I start thinking about different things, and I include something new, or I reference a talk that I saw earlier in the conference. So I think it flows well. After the first 2 minutes, you kind of get relaxed, and you don't feel it. The 18 minutes after that, they just happen. And after that, your energy crushes and you're like, oh, I did all of this. Boom. But while it's happening, you're like, I think you're holding it together.
Yeah.
I really
You're not
hope you're
thirsty,
right.
or you don't want to go to the bathroom. You're like, you don't think about anything else. It's just that.
Yeah, I really hope you're right. I mean, I have my first like big conference coming up, Women in Technical SEO, and it's at the Barbican. And Reed shared like a picture of the stage and stuff, and I almost had a heart attack when I saw that. So I really hope that you're right. Is there like more advice that you can give me and anybody listening? How do you prep for it? I was thinking of taking a squeezy bowl, but I'm not sure.
It's silly, but I like to see and understand how the clicker works ahead of time, and then know if you have a comfort screen, and if this screen is actually showing. Some people prefer to see the same slide that is in the back, and some people prefer to see the next one. I like to see the same, so if I do a quick glance, I know what's happening, and I'm not, looking at the next page while I'm reading the previous one. And for me, it's a bit more confusing, but knowing what's going to be, or what's your preference, it really helps. And try just to go on stage before, when the place is still empty. You kind of get used to the place, and you're like, okay, this is going to be full of people. The comfort screen is here. The microphone, do I have to hold it, or is a lapel? I prefer lapel, because if we shake a little bit, nobody's going to notice. And test the clicker as well, see if it's working, which direction you point. And I think those are the things. And one thing very important, I learned this doing the training from BrightonSEO. Actually, they do a very nice training for all the speakers. You're just telling your journey on those 20 or 30 minutes. If you're saying we are talking about structured data, you're not going to tell the history of structured data and tell everything from every angle. People will remember a couple of things that you said. A few things they will just resonate and like, oh yeah, I do this as well, or I know this, and they're gonna, collect a couple of tips or a couple of ideas that you're gonna put in their minds and you explore later. So if they tell you 100 things, you're not gonna remember them. So why try to put so much in 20 minutes? Tell a little story, enough for people to understand your point and say, oh, I like this, I will explore more, or I see an angle to work on this, and that will be better than trying to say everything.
Great advice.
And going back, Gus, as well, because you mentioned that, so going from obviously, the smaller stage and then kind of going up to, the Brighton SEO stage, as well as many other conferences, like you were mentioning, like, okay, your kind of approach was to, get in touch with people and kind of like keep knocking on people's doors to kind of, give you a speaking slot. Could you tell us like a couple of other, like, how have you approached it and how have you kind of secured so many speaking slots? And like, what is the strategy that other people could follow in terms of like trying to secure themselves, public speaking spots for SEO at conferences or even in local communities?
Yeah, I would start looking at what are the places that are open for speakers. There was a time, pre-COVID, that I just went on a tour, and I was just like pitching myself and say, so there was a meetup in Bristol. I flew to Bristol, got a night on Airbnb, then went to Birmingham, went to Cardiff. So all the people that I really wanted to have that experience. So I started going, I was paying from pocket and, going, spending the night, speaking and flying back the next morning.
Well, I suppose
Was very,
were you networking there as well? So I guess you were meeting people when you
yeah,
were there. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Like I wasn't looking for clients. I worked for an agency at the time, but I wasn't really looking for clients. For me, it was fully about the experience, the speaking experience and meeting other SEOs. And
Yeah.
I think there's something really special about, especially when I go to Brighton now. Once you start meeting other people that you admire and they admire you as well, you kind of feed each other.
Mm.
And you come back full of energy. It's like, oh, do all these people that I respect, do they like me as well? Did they read something that I publish? This is how we met, Emina as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, it like really
Yeah.
gives you a lot of energy for different things. So I think I don't know, it's like a refreshing in your brain. You meet all the SEOs in a short amount of time. You'll get to see them speaking, or you go to speak, and I always leave the conference with a very good vibe.
Mm.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a confidence boost as well. I mean, you kind of think, wow, somebody's actually listening to what I'm saying, which is
Yeah,
absolutely, I mean, Gus, I'm a big fan. So I'm actually mentioning you at Women in Technical SEO as well in
yeah.
my presentation.
Oh, thank you,
Oh
thank you.
no,
That's cool.
definitely. Come on, you completely inspired my journey with AI. You and some,
Oh,
a few other people that I look up to as well. So, no, it was
thank you
really
very
cool.
much. That's very
Really
nice
cool.
to hear.
So I guess well,
Yeah.
that's it. It's like the power of networks, isn't it? So it's like, the power of like, you making the effort to go out and like meet people and network and obviously check out different events. It's that network of meeting new people that can give you additional opportunities. Would you say that that kind of helped with like, oh, somebody recommends you or somebody says, oh, I know Gus is looking for a speaking slot or something like that. Like what were a couple of examples of how, like, how you secured a couple of speaking slots?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. Meeting people, it's part of it. Writing a lot on different places so people can see who you are, and maybe they read something you published, and then you're pitching something on that topic. It's like, oh, they know about this. Oh, this
Yeah.
person is all about structured data. This person is all about speed. So you start making your name. Um, so meeting people, pitching to conferences, and the actual speaking is, the best marketing that you can do for yourself. After I spoke in Brighton last April, there was someone from an agency in Oslo, Norway, who was at the audience and messaged me as soon as the talk finished and said, "Oh, you want to come and speak in Oslo at some point this year? I want you to come here and give the same talk."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hey, okay, this is very nice. It's not an opportunity that it was being promoted anywhere. I happened to be going on a holiday there a couple of months later, so I said, "Oh, I'm gonna be around those dates," and they just put a meetup because I was going to be there. And also, I didn't have to redo the talk. Like I already had
Yeah.
those 20 minutes. I had the slides, I had the flow ready. Maybe you do a couple of tweaks, but 90% is already there. And do some people reuse talk, some people don't. If I'm talking in a different place to a different audience, I don't mind reusing it. Maybe I
Mm.
change some examples or I make some improvements, but the base is the same because it takes a lot of time
Yeah.
to put that story together. Put examples that make sense that you believe people will resonate with, having a good flow and a story that you can tell in those 20 minutes without people falling asleep.
Mm.
So yeah, I think speaking is the best marketing for speaking.
Yeah.
Brilliant. What about kind of thinking about the application? So you did a lot of pitching, obviously, in your career of your talks. What is some of the advice you would give to somebody who's pitching? Because I know, for example, Brighton SEO, there's always a lot of competition and a lot of I know Calvin always looks for advanced talks, technical talks, but I'm not sure how many of those he actually gets. So what's some of your advice when you're pitching to speak at these conferences?
Yeah, I think it's about finding an angle that you haven't seen repeated over and over. So if you're gonna say, SEO 101, you're not gonna go to an SEO conference to talk about, what are the elements to optimize your page? What's the metadata you can put here? Probably not, unless you have something very quirky. I tested 10,000 different titles on a group of pages, or something that can be more advanced. But a lot is what's the topic? How can you make how you can get an angle? And sometimes it's not always about it has to be really advanced and nobody talked about this before. It's just how you frame that story, right? So if someone is talking about a GMB, it's how I optimize the 1,000 locations for companies. Like, oh, okay, it's a GMB, but it's 1,000. How do you do all of these one person or one account? Or I end up learning a lot of new things at Indeed. So I don't talk directly about what I'm doing at the company. Oh, we did this test and we changed this thing, but I can talk about the processes. So like I learned to work with engineers like never before. So, okay, this is something that people can learn about. And there's always a struggle that exists in the SEO community. The devs didn't do what we hoped for. They fixed this in a weird way. They put everything behind a JavaScript and things like that. So for me, it's about finding that angle. And once you find it, there are things that you can do over and over again. And sometimes people come from different angles. Like I gave a talk about how to build SEO tools using LLMs. And I saw at Brighton before this, I had this talk, the idea written for this talk, and then I saw in Brighton that two people were talking about things that were in the same realm. Like one guy was talking about building tools as well, but all the tools he had were completely different than the ones that I had in mind. And another one was talking about using APIs and scrapers, and you would touch into using AI to generate this code and how you connect this code with different APIs. So it is like the story that you put behind it. That's pretty much what you're gonna sell it there. I try to write them in advance. I have anytime that I have inspiration, I have a sheet here with all the pitches I've done since September 2023.
Very
And
organized, Gus. I mean, it's a lot of you. It kind of shows how much determination, and it is work. It's a lot of work, and you need to want it to kind of go
yeah,
for that.
yeah. Well, but also sometimes like I pitched for a story for MosCon, and I knew there was a very little chance I would get it. So I didn't get it, and I wasn't disappointed or anything. But just first, I made the pitch public, so that alone gave some audience, and a lot of people that even speakers, MosCon speakers, were like, "Oh, I would love to see this talk," and things like that. So you kind of validate, do people actually like it? Maybe the idea was bad, so you get to do a little bit of marketing for yourself.
Is it
And
sorry, Gus, is it like an important thing to remember for people is that actually, if they do have setbacks, like how do you deal with setbacks? Like, and obviously you've touched on it there, but like, what is your approach to dealing with setbacks? Because of course it's always disappointing if you like, because you feel as if, oh, this idea is great, I love it. And it's something, especially when it's like SEO and and the SEO community are like, people have spent hours doing something, and they love this thing. And they're like, why don't other people care as much as me? How do you deal with that disappointment when like someone says, oh, actually this talk's not for us,
yeah, well, it happens. I get sad for a day and I move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
As anything in life, if I get a very bad feedback from my manager, or if my wife is pointing things that I'm not doing, and I know she's right because I keep leaving something out of place, and she points several at the same time, and you're like, oh. So I get down for a day. I spend the night sad. I wake up the next day and said, okay, I can do this better. How can I solve this? How can I
But do you
pitch
tend,
this to another conference? I feel bad, of course. You feel sad, but I guess you have to move on. Some places like Brighton will get, I don't know, thousands of pitches, and there are over 100 slots, so there are a lot of chances. But sometimes Brighton doesn't want you anymore, or they want to show new people, and I totally understand that. And that's why I keep a record of the pitches, because I've had things that were that got a no in one place but got a yes somewhere else. So I didn't have to think about it one more time. The work was still useful.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's it. Because you are going to get a no sometimes. I mean, that's the thing. It's like we work in marketing, so we know what it means. You have like loads of traffic, but not everybody is going to actually convert on the it's a conversion rate. So you got to think about it that way. It's not like, and then you optimize your pitch, and see if that works, or pitch it somewhere else. And it's good advice.
It's a conference speaking optimization.
Gus, we have to ask you this, and Emina and I were speaking about this, and we were thinking, we do need to ask you if you have any embarrassing stories that you could share with us. So what's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you on your speaking journey so far?
I think everyone has a case where the clicker is not working. You think it's moving, and then you're like, oh, and then suddenly you're not paying attention at the story anymore, just trying to solve the clicker. It did happen to me my first large event. That it was a very short talk, it was a 4-minute talk. I did not know that the monitor was actually showing the next slide. So I was looking down and talking for maybe the first 30, 40 seconds, talking about something that people were not seeing.
Okay.
And I would say the story, and then I would click, and then they would see what I just said.
Yeah.
And so that was, it was one of those places that had a lot of lights on you, so you wouldn't really see the audience. Like you would see the few first rows, and the rest, it was just light. But then when I realized, I did like, oh, and then I put in the right one, and I just continued from there. I didn't stop to apologize or anything. You have 4 minutes, just go.
Yeah. So is it with public speaking like this on big conferences? Is it like this attitude of the show must go on kind of thing where if a model trips on a runway, you're supposed to just keep on walking? Is that something that you would advise for public speaking? Just ignore it, don't acknowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, you're gonna see sometimes the screen turns off and people can't see anything, or the mic is not perfect. So just roll with the problems, and if you were confusing when you said something before, just move on, go to the next one, and everything's gonna be fine. Nobody there. It's weird because when you're on stage, you get very nervous, but everyone down there, they're just like, they're not like, oh, look at this guy, he clicked the wrong slide. Like, people are like, okay, I can wait 5 seconds, 10 seconds, it's fine. So the show must go on.
Exactly. So you've shared loads of really good advice. What is the one piece of advice from the ones you shared, or new ones, that you wish somebody told you before you went on this speaking journey?
I think the one that I really learned after a couple of sessions was, don't try to put everything on those slides. People will just remember a few things. So it's just a bite of that whole story. Like, you're not going to teach all SEO or all content writing. Just focus on 2-3 main takeaways and teach them, and people will be satisfied because they're not going to remember if you say 50 anyway, and they're just going to get overwhelmed. So make your story a little shorter. it's okay. Like look at the people that you admire, or go to watch them speaking or watch some videos of them speaking and understand how they deliver, where they're looking at, how much information they're sharing in those 20 minutes. They're not telling absolutely everything on a topic. And that's precisely why you are interested, because they just focus on one thing and they go from that one thing with a couple of learnings throughout the whole journey.
That's some really good advice. I mean, personally, I have a problem with focusing on just one thing. That's one of the things that I've learned from doing the presentation for the upcoming talk, particularly when the topic is so complex. So and I know you had that same with some of your talks. You probably had that same dilemma, but with the LLM talks, because you need to explain to people things like vector embeddings, tokenization, transformer models, all of these things. You need to, otherwise they won't understand the examples that you're pulling from. So how do you deal with that? Because it was so difficult for me to not go on a tangent when I'm talking about something that's pretty complicated.
Yeah, you know what I found very useful? First, I don't start with the slides. I just write like a point for each slide that I want to have, and you already have a good flow, so you're not stuck with a blank screen. Then after you do the slides, do a run through or a couple of run throughs at home. And sometimes I realize I'm here presenting in the living room. I have my clicker at home, so I create an experience similar. I have my small screen so I can look at the screen and look at the empty sofa, but pretending people are there. And sometimes I realize this story is getting too long. I've been for 2 minutes on the slide. Like people are they reading what's on the slide? I bored myself trying to explain this. Okay, this is already too long. If am tired of this slide, people will be as well. So I need to cut this down. I need to make it a bit more simple. I need to remove a few things, and that usually helps me to get in a good place.
Some good advice.
How much?
I might send you my
Please
pages.
do, please do. Yeah, I'll be
You have a
happy
look.
to.
That bit is still problematic, and I've cut it so many times. Not to mention that I'm already behind on the slide. Like yesterday, I added the DeepSeek stuff.
Yeah.
4 hours later, DeepSeek gets hacked, and I'm out of date. So yeah.
There will always be new developments. Like maybe you don't need to put it, but you can say, hey,
Yeah.
and this is also happening. The story is changing so much that I couldn't put everything in here, and you just make a
Exactly.
mention to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna start off by saying this talk is already behind. So just to kind of set
Yeah.
expectations
You're
there.
also assuming that everyone is up to date on all the information that you know, and it's not true. Not everyone. If everyone already knew everything about what you're gonna say, they probably don't need to be there.
Good
So
advice.
they're there to learn from you as well. And some people are, even if you just look at tech SEO, people will be in different sub areas in there. So it's still fine, it doesn't need to include everything or the latest updates from DeepSeek that just happened a few days before the conference. You're gonna be fine.
Thank you. Right. We are nearing to the end. As you know, we have a special section at the end. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom,
Yeah, it's been
Gus.
great,
I'm
Gus.
going to be right in there on your LinkedIn asking more questions.
Please do, please do. I'll be happy to help,
Yeah.
as a lot of people helped me as well.
Oh, lovely. So Room 404, it's a segment that we do at the end, which is basically us banishing into Room 404 anything that has annoyed us. We've had all kinds of things in there, some big ones, some kind of little pesky things. GA4 is always in there.
Yeah,
I mean,
permanent
I think
permanent resident.
permanently needs to go to 410 actually. But what about you? What has been slightly annoying that you would like, or really annoying that you would like to banish into Room 404?
I would stop talking about the whole HubSpot SEO drama. Um, I think was interesting to see. I wouldn't have noticed because I'm not, checking how websites are performing every day. But there's so many takes, and people have so many deep analysis on it. But I guess most of them are wrong. Like it's hard when you're not inside. It's the same when you talk about Forbes and all the big publications, big websites that people have a love and hate, or that kind of situation, because you're not really there to understand what's really happening. The tools might be um, wrong or partially wrong, and a lot of people have really deep takes that they know everything. Everyone was following this playbook for so long, and now put it in the bin. Maybe it doesn't work anymore. It worked for a very long time. The company will find different ways. They're not gonna die because they lost this traffic. I'm sure
Yeah.
they'll come back. So I've seen far too many takes on it. Um, the one that it was really good, and I saw it yesterday actually, and then we can lock the door and throw the key away, was from Erica Varanguli. She did have some specific examples about the pages that they redirected and if they made sense or not, and it was like not a general take on it. It was, she went and dig specific examples, and so that was a good one. But most of them I am not even bothering to read.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like, I'm a massive HubSpot fan, like HubSpot as a CRM apps and automation, absolutely love it. I know quite a lot of people who are actually working for HubSpot. This is the other side of the equation. I'm all for discussing and sharing best practices, and it's a big thing in the SEO community. HubSpot has been around for so long. What I'm not for is kind of, some people just have, there's a little bit of a, oh, kind of, there you go, they've fallen kind of
Yeah,
feeling to
yeah,
it. And you forget that this is a company, but these are also people. There's some amazing people working for HubSpot, like, even if these things are true, just be mindful. Those people are at the moment dealing with a lot, if indeed those tools
Yeah.
are
And
correct.
they
So
don't need the
yeah,
opinion of some anonymous SEO consultant who's going to throw their
yeah,
hat into the ring of what went wrong.
yeah,
I think, yeah, it's true. I think, but that's it though. It's like, I think everybody, I think people that lack that awareness potentially of, like, the larger situation of what's at hand, and the consequences of that, and the people that are involved, and the sheer number of employees and teams and consultants that affects, and that, all of those things that kind of filter out from that situation. They don't look at that. They just look at, oh, here's a LinkedIn post that I can post, and I can put my opinion in there, and my opinion might be a little bit, well, just a bit bland, it's just like, or who knows, like, it might be completely inaccurate and completely wrong, and I think that's it. It's just, it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't necessarily to kind of take the whole gravity of the situation under consideration, really. So yeah, it's a good one to go in. But yeah, hopefully we can lock it away, and we just, don't talk about it again.
hopefully.
excellent. Well, Gus, thank you so much. I mean, I'm personally invested today in this talk, considering what's coming up. So, yeah, thanks so much for sharing all of your amazing experiences and your journey with speaking. Where can people find you?
On LinkedIn, a little bit on Blue Sky, and on my website, guspelogia.com.
Excellent, brilliant. Well,
Fantastic. Yeah, so please do connect with Gus, and please ask him any questions, and of course, engage with this episode, leave comments, and if there are any specific questions that come out of this, please do let us know. We'll all do our best to help, including Gus as well. And yeah, it's been a pleasure, Gus. Thank you so much for coming on.
So thank you guys for inviting me. Hopefully this was useful for people who are getting considering to pitch at conferences. Go ahead, give it a try. If you don't like it, that's fine. You tried once, and there's nothing too horrible that might happen from it. I remember being very, very nervous the first time at Brighton, and when going back to the hotel and saying, you know what, by 2 p.m. this will be gone. That's just 2 p.m. is around the corner, and that's it. And the feeling you get after, it's such a buzz that for me was, I want to go back now. I want to do it again. It's like going a roller coaster. You regret halfway through it, and at the end you want to do it again straight away. So if you are on the fence, go ahead, give it a try, and go on stage.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
Great to
Thanks,
finish
Gus.
on that.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
inspirational.
for
Thank you
coming.
so much.
And thanks
Thank you,
everybody
guys.
for listening as well. And we'll see you next time for another episode of SEOs Getting Coffee.
See you later, everyone. Thanks for
Cool.
coming.
Bye. Thank you.